Hey, have you ever caught yourself in this comparison trap, comparing yourself to other people, what they have, the way they live, or the way they look? That's a big waste of time. Today, we're going to overcome that. Let's talk about it. Hey, so welcome to Faith and Fitness Friday. My name is Joe Alvarado. This is the place where faith and fitness come together. Sometimes we talk about faith, sometimes we talk about fitness, but the whole idea is for you to live a healthier life and to get to know God better. And one of the ways we're getting to know God better is his idea on making plans for the future and how to stick to the plan. And so last week we talked about how you have to have your eyes focused on Jesus so you don't sink your plan, right? Peter was on the boat and Jesus came walking to them on water, and you can watch the last episode to catch up on this, but Peter was walking on water doing something that nobody had ever done before, but the moment he looked over to the side, he became afraid when he saw the big waves, and all of a sudden he started to sink. He took his eyes off of Jesus. And so God would tell us, and even if you're not a believer, he would say, hey, if you keep your eyes on me, you have better chances of staying focused and doing something that you never thought you could do. And so we talked about all these plans that, man, there's plans that you plan for. There's the weddings, there's the birthdays, there's the dinner dates, there's, all these things that you're so glad you planned for and they're successful. And then there's the things you don't plan for, like we didn't plan on getting pregnant, we didn't plan on spending that money, or, you didn't plan on the house needing all these repairs, or even serious things like death or divorce, things like that. And then there's the plans where we're focusing on, and those are the plans that you kind of abandoned last year, earlier this year. You said, hey, by summer, I wanted to do this. I wanted to start school this year. I wanted to improve my relationship. I wanted to get out of that relationship, not marriage, because you're stuck there. You got to fix that. But all these plans that you gave up on, we're not going to give up on them. And that's why we're getting ahead of it. And by the time 2018 comes, you're going to be ready to tackle it and to stay focused with the goals that you have. So today, I want to talk about this idea of comparison. And we all fall into this trap of comparing ourselves, especially in a day and age of social media where people are always putting their best picture on the Instagram, their best picture on Facebook and Snapchat. And you're just like, man, they're always on vacation. Man, they cook great. Man, that's a great, background or whatever. And then all of a sudden you start thinking about yourself, like I'm in bed and my hair is not done. And you're like, I don't look anything like that, right? And then you start comparing yourself, wondering, man, if only I had this, that, and then you end up in what Andy Stanley calls the land of Ur. Have you ever heard of the land of Ur? I'm going to tell you about it. It's like this. I wish I was richer, then I would be able to take more vacations, right? Or if I was skinnier, I would take the one selfie and that would be enough. Or if I was smarter, I would have started school already. Or if I was taller, I would have been playing basketball, or the ladies would have noticed me, right? Or if I was prettier, again, and if I was happier, then I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. And then you start comparing yourself because there's always somebody with a bigger right? Then you look at the other side of that and you're like, well, to make myself feel better, I'm not as heavy. They're heavier than I am, and they're slower than I am, and he's shorter, so I could take him. I know I could take him, right? They're poorer. I've had a little bit extra. I'm blessed, and I'm a nerd, but they're nerdier, right? So there's always more ers on both sides of it, and this whole idea that, man, the comparison trap that you get yourself in, there's no end to it, and there's no win to it. So there's no point in continuing to do this. And here's a quote that I found that so many people have said. I don't even know who said it. Who knows? But it says this: don't compare someone else's highlight reels to your behind the scenes footage. And we do that so often. We look at the highlights of people's lives. We look at TV, we look at magazines, we look at social media posts, and we're like, and then we look at ourselves and we're kind of behind the scenes and we're like, ew. And then we start comparing ourselves. Well, if you want to be successful in 2018, you can't do that. You can't go comparing yourself. Now, you can use other people as motivation to push you to do bigger and better things, but you can't compare yourself. You're you, and you're unique. And even King Solomon, he was the wisest king to ever live and the richest. He had everything. And he wrote a book in the Bible called Ecclesiastes. And it was so smart because he would not only did he have everything, but he observed things and he wrote down a lot of things that help us. One of the things he observed as he was living his life, he said, then I observed what most people, he said, most people are motivated to success because they envy their neighbors. They're like, I'm going to do something bigger and better if they think they can get away with it, or they think they can buy the bigger car or the better house. I'm going to do it. And they let this comparison trap motivate them to do bigger things. He says, but this too, it's meaningless, like chasing the wind. He's basically saying, man, you can't determine your status based on where other people are at in their life. Or he basically is saying that he saw people determining where they were based on where everybody else was. If they have, the car and I don't, that means they're doing better and I'm not doing so great. If they just bought a new house and I don't have a new house, then that means they're doing better and I'm not doing it. You see what I'm saying? It's a trap. It's a trap, and you can't base what you have, who you are, what your goals are based on other people's progress. You can't do that. Just because somebody has this or they don't have as much of that, it doesn't matter. You're you. And God gave you your brain, your body, your life to do with it what he wants you to do. And the goals, he's put things in your heart for you to reach some goals. And so you can't do that. One of the things that Paul reminds the church, the early church in the book of Galatians, he writes to this church because they were having some of these similar issues. And he was saying, he told them this. He said, I want you to do this. He said, I want you to pay careful attention to your own work. Okay, so this is what we're trying to do in 2018. Pay attention to what we want to accomplish, the goals that God has put in our heart and what we want to do. Pay careful attention to your own work. For then you'll get the satisfaction of a job well done. I did it. It was what I wanted to do. It was what I needed. It was what my family needed. I have a better relationship now. I have a leaner body. I'm able to run a marathon now. It was what I set out to do and I did it, right? And not because of somebody else or not because I wanted to outdo somebody else, but because I stayed focused on what I wanted. That's what he's telling him. He said, and you won't need to compare yourself to anyone else. You stay focused on what you have in mind, and you get that satisfaction because you met the goal for you that you wanted to achieve. And that means you don't even have to compare yourself. There's nobody to compare yourself to because it was for you. And it was for your relationship. It was for your marriage. It was for your body. It was for your kids. It was for your education. It was for your future. And you're a better you as a result of it. So you can't compare yourself to anybody else. I mean, growing up, I remember I developed an eating disorder growing up because I wanted to be skinny. I wanted to look like some of the other kids that were popular. And so I had this eating disorder called bulimia. And so I would eat, and in order to not gain weight, I would just purge. And it's something that I struggled with for so many years, all because of comparing myself and wanting to look like and be like somebody that I wasn't. And I really had to let God examine my heart and me be vulnerable to God to say, God, you know what? You've made me Joe. And you've given me my body. You've given me my talent. You've given me my desires and my hopes and my dreams. And that's what I'm going to stick with. And I really had to reanalyze everything. And it took years of me getting over the fact that I couldn't compare myself to anybody else to look like somebody that I wasn't. And I hope you don't do that either. I don't want you to walk into 2018 comparing yourself to somebody, because that's not you. You're you. God made you as an individual, and you have some goals that he's put in your heart. Let's reach them together. 2018 is going to be awesome. Let's continue to prep for it and get rid of obstacles that might get in our way. Hey, my name is Joe Alvarado. This was Faith and Fitness. I love you guys. Have a great weekend. Take care. God bless.